Female police officer saves a lion stuck in a tree. A few minutes later, something terrible happens. It was just after dawn when the radio crackled with an unusual distress call. A lion had been spotted in a small tree, its large body tangled in the branches. The police officer, accustomed to handling city disturbances and minor traffic incidents, was caught off guard. A lion in the middle of town? Her first thought was disbelief, but the urgency in the dispatcher's voice left no room for doubt. Arriving on the scene, the officer was met with the sight of a large male lion, suspended awkwardly among the branches of a tree in a small park. His golden mane was ruffled, his body strained in unnatural angles as he struggled to free himself. His breathing was labored, each movement of his limbs only causing more entanglement in the thick branches. The situation was dire. This lion was stuck, exhausted, and completely out of its element. The officer stepped out of her vehicle, her boots crunching on the gravel path beneath her. Around her, a crowd had gathered, a mix of awe and concern on their faces. People whispered to one another, unsure how to react. The lion's presence was an oddity, and there was something about its stillness that sent a shiver through the crowd. The fear wasn't just for the animal, it was for what might happen next. The officer remained calm, her years of experience on the force helping her focus. She scanned the situation quickly, noting the lion's condition. It was clear it was struggling, its claws scraping the bark in an effort to pull itself free. But each movement only seemed to make things worse. The branches seemed to hold the lion tighter, and with every attempt, the beast's fatigue grew. She stepped forward, her voice low but steady. "We need to clear the area. Everyone stay back," she called, motioning for the bystanders to move to a safe distance. There was no time for hesitation. This wasn't just a wild animal wandering into town. This was an animal in distress, and the officer knew she was the only one who could help. But she also understood the risks involved. Her mind raced through her training as she slowly approached the tree, her movements deliberate. The lion's eyes, wide with fear, fixed on her as she moved closer. There was no sign of aggression, no warning growl. Instead, the animal seemed more confused than anything else. A predator trapped in a situation it couldn't understand. The officer could feel the weight of the moment. The lion, caught between fear and exhaustion, was desperate for freedom. But it was also dangerous, its strength and size enough to overpower anyone who came too close. With steady hands, she began directing her team to set up a safe way to reach the lion. A rope ladder to begin with, carefully placed so they could free the animal without further distress. As her team moved into action, she stayed grounded, focused on the lion's well-being. It was an unusual, near-impossible situation, but the officer knew one thing for certain. This was no longer just a rescue. It was a moment of trust, the kind that existed between human and animal, when both were in need of a savior. The lion's gaze never wavered from her as she prepared to climb. She could feel its eyes following her every move, a silent acknowledgement that in this moment, she was its only hope. The officer moved cautiously, her boots crunching softly against the earth as she approached the base of the tree. The lion, still suspended among the thick branches, seemed to watch her every movement with a wary, exhausted gaze. Its breath came in shallow gasps, its muscles trembling from the strain of its failed attempts to free itself. The situation was delicate. One wrong move could send the animal into a panic, and that could be disastrous for both the lion and the humans around it. Her team, working silently behind her, quickly set up a rope ladder. The officer's voice, steady and soft, guided their movements. "Be careful. We don't want to startle it." She wasn't speaking just to her team. Her words carried an unspoken message to the lion as well. In her years of service, she had learned the importance of calm in moments of tension, of creating a space where even the most distressed creatures could feel the safety of a gentle approach. The lion's body shifted slightly as she ascended the ladder, its golden mane shifting with the breeze. There was a quiet desperation in its movements now, as though it had exhausted all other options and had begun to accept that its freedom lay in the hands of the humans below. The officer reached the lion's level, her eyes locking with its. It was a strange moment, one that few could understand. There, suspended between the wild and the man-made world, an animal in need of help and a human offering it. She spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're here to help you." Her words were not a plea, nor were they an attempt to comfort. They were simply a truth, a recognition that the lion, despite its strength, was powerless in this moment. As she reached out to carefully untangle its limbs from the branches, she could feel the tension in its body. But there was no aggression. It didn't lash out. Instead, it remained still, as if it understood in some quiet way that its fate now rested with her. The officer's hands were steady as she worked to free the lion. The branches were thick, the bark rough, and every time she moved to shift its legs, the lion's body would tremble. But it made no further attempts to escape. There was no growl, no snarl, just a slow, steady effort to release the creature from its trap. As the minutes passed, the lion seemed to relax, its breathing slowing ever so slightly. Its muscles, once tense and panicked, now seemed to settle into the rhythm of the rescue. Finally, with a soft, relieved exhale, the lion's last leg was freed from the branch. The officer stepped back slightly, allowing it a moment to stretch its limbs to regain its bearings. Its large eyes blinked slowly, and for a brief moment it remained still, its body heavy with exhaustion. The officer, standing back now, gave it the space it needed. She wasn't sure if it would run, or if it would simply collapse, but she knew in that moment she had done everything she could to free it. The lion took a tentative step forward, its movement slow and unsteady, but its strength was returning. The officer watched, her heart pounding as she realized the magnitude of the moment. This wild creature, once trapped and helpless, was now free, but freedom, she knew, wasn't always without its risks. As the lion took a few more steps, it turned back toward her, its golden eyes meeting hers once again. There was no roar of triumph, no grand gesture of victory, only a quiet, shared understanding. The lion, still weak but free, slowly turned and walked toward the edge of the park. Its massive body swayed with each step, but it walked, and that was enough. The officer stood there, watching it disappear into the brush, knowing she had witnessed something rare, a brief moment of connection between human and animal, where fear and trust had met in the middle, and one had offered the other a chance to live. As the lion disappeared into the brush, the officer stood quietly, feeling a bittersweet relief. But her moment of peace was interrupted by the distant rumble of thunder. Instincts kicked in as she noticed the silhouette of a male lion charging toward the area where the first lion had been released. The officer's heart sank as she realized what was about to happen. The male lion, larger and stronger, was headed straight for the weakened lion. Before the officer could react, the two lions collided. The battle was swift, brutal, and primal. The weaker lion, exhausted from its ordeal, didn't stand a chance. Within moments, it lay motionless on the ground. The officer stood frozen, helpless. She had freed the lion, but in the wild, survival was never guaranteed. The male lion walked away, leaving the savannah quiet once again. The officer's heart was heavy as she turned away, knowing she had done what she could, but that nature's course could not be changed.